air going on there. No, back up. There's air going on in here. Thanks. Nope, I threw it in there already, thank you. straight back. Takes your breath away. She's really had a lot of things. Yeah. She was at Hershey for a while. I know she was home at Christmas, but she wasn't good. And then she was a good singer and she passed away. I think they said that she's had like thyroid cancer. And but thyroid cancer is usually usually it's terrible. Yeah. Thank you much.
You made it. Yeah.
We announced it in there.
Oh, did you? Hey.
Thank you much.
Wake me the whole thing.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Oh, I just
I
read
think you
something.
got the call when you were standing up there. Where the 6 facilities, we got a call. So it's
yeah, it's true, he doesn't have to work, so.
No, he's working on other stuff Thursday, because he's working Saturday, or he's off Saturday.
Oh, I thought he's working tomorrow for, cause he's going Sunday.
No, I don't know, he's off Saturday.
No. even went out and moved the sign closer. So it also went. Thank you. yeah. Oh, well, a couple of years till I retire, and I just think, oh, this will be my nice little thing to do when I retire. He retired already, so. Just me, a little bit of pocket money, and actually I put it away. I have a daughter that lives in the Air Force, so she hasn't lived around here for years. And, so I get to go visit her, I put it away. We don't need plane flights anymore, she's in Wisconsin now. She was in, we're gonna, they just moved there. They lived in, Minot, North Dakota for 8 years. They lived in Italy for 4 years. And then they lived in, Olympia, Washington for the last 2. And I just got out 15 years. My husband's doing Air National Guard now, and they do a job. So they're in their forever home now in Wisconsin. Yeah, so, yeah, right out of high school. We lived next door to Mr. Huff, and he inspired her. Yeah, she was such a little girl. Every time he put his uniform on, she was like she was. Yeah, so. She never talked about it, and she was going to community college down in Harrisburg. We even took her down, looked at apartments and stuff, and we took her down on an apartment actually. And she came home for a couple, last week of school, maybe the week before. Of course, it's Barbie girl, the first thing I thought, oh gosh, oh yeah. She goes, I signed up to stay there for soon. Good luck. You did what? She loved it. She did 4 years, and then she got out, and they got married, and she had 2 years later, and she was a little girl.
And her husband was still in the
Yeah,
service?
yeah.
And he got it?
Just got out.
Just got it.
Just got 15 years.
Wow.
And then 10 years of Air National Guard.
Okay.
He's from Wisconsin, and when he said one thing, he said, I was 17-year-old, skinny little guy, went into the Air Force, and somebody pulled me aside, one of the sergeants, and said, you're lucky in Wisconsin, you pay in all your personal taxes, and when you get out, any children you have can go to any state school in Wisconsin to go to college. And he said, so I always did. And they only have one, and that's all they're gonna have, but, you know, but he said, at 17, he says, I don't know why I thought, gee, that sounds like a good idea. So he said he set it up with his mom and dad to make sure that he did that. And, yeah.
Thank goodness someone like that.
Yeah. I think he said there's only 3 states that do that. Yeah, and you have to do. So and you have to live there then. So they had to do that. But I think they would have anyhow. It's just nice that they're around family. It was hard, you know, especially when they lived in Italy. He got deployed twice when they were in Italy. So they came home.
Oh, okay.
And the last time they came home, it was over Christmas. It was like 4 years ago. And Jeff said, you know, this is the first time they home maybe Christmas. So I'm just glad they got to spend Christmas this year with his family, his brother, his sister, and his spouse that live there. So it's good. His mom was a mother for a little while, so.
Oh, that's good.
Actually, he's working for his stepfather.
Oh.
He had 3 jobs lined up, and when they got there, his stepfather said, before you go on any of these interviews, he said, I'd like you to go in with me and see what I do, you know, and he owns like a small plastics manufacturer.
Oh.
And, you know, I think he offered you more than the other places that are offering, and so he went to my daughter works for the special needs kids, which
We don't know what's going on, right? evening, Tim.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good.
Hello. Hey. Hi, Mr. T.
Hello, how are you?
Pretty good. Nice to meet you. Huh? What's that?
I didn't know she was in the, I didn't know you were
Yeah, she gave me the green light,
Okay.
so we're here.
Huh?
Well, interesting. Yeah, I was having some different issues at home. Ah. That's the one thing that we can take away from him that really hurts. So unfortunately, it also hurts the team, so we are not the most love-like parents right now. You're not the ones who screwed up.
News that travels fast, but Jackie just.
About
My daughter just messaged me, you're my need the whole thing, so. Rick was
Yeah, the first one, yeah.
What? Like, he said, I could tell there was something.
Thanks, well, not me. You're the
Off.
anyone else say they can't or somebody else was supposed to try to come on Nicole's here. Oh, cool. I get to sign in this, or? Oh, okay. Nicole is.
I don't know if you have to sign it.
I sat here so I could do work while I'm listening. Alright, never mind. It was the only
I
one.
don't see my name up there.
Oh, I've seen their signature.
Yeah, student representative.
Where are they gonna put my name?
Oh, yeah, that's right, Sarah did, they just moved Sarah out there. And, the other person was, Marty and Al. Yeah. Well, they're in Jamaica. Did they get it? Yeah, I got a photo from the beach. There's like 5, oh, it's so freaking cold there. For me. This is the week where Al's mom went to his brother's mid last week, so they're away, and then they come back and take a few days vacation yet, without her, and then they'll be back. But I said something to Marty, and she's like, oh, yeah. So she's putting herself in charge of her son. How about it? Because they're like, how is everybody, I don't know how, anybody like us are going out in the week. So Dan,
Huh?
so thanks for the info.
Sure. Are you doing a superintendent report?
No,
Okay.
I'm doing mock trial.
Yeah. All right. I want to mention, first one of us should mention the $35,000.
Oh, definitely.
Ties in with
Yes.
the
Yes.
program of study, what we're doing with math and science.
Yes.
Maybe if you want to interrupt me, I don't go on about math and science.
Okay, I'll write myself a note for it right now.
And if you don't remember, I will.
Next time, but it's better to do it right now.
I will say, Miss Basin has some news on that front. That way they can see we are going out again, attempting again. I applied to Highmark for the dummies.
Oh, good.
They won't do transportation. Steve had a contact,
Okay.
so they won't do anything with transportation. And they want to tie to the community. So I put in there that we were gonna work with the Rotary Club in their blood screening
Okay.
and provide blood pressure and that type of.
Okay. So more of like a health fair thing. Okay, that's
For
really
kids.
good. That's really good.
But they need the dummies
Right.
to do that. So I asked for $8,500 for dummies.
Perfect.
So
That's perfect. So let
doesn't
me
look
ask
like
this
they
question.
fund a ton.
Next year, we only have 9 paid. Does that mean, I think I've asked this before. Does that mean we're transporting 9 or that was still part of the
We
question?
will have observation hours for others. So
That's
we
what I
will
thought
still
you
be
had said.
transporting.
Okay. So we still need to budget for observation hours. So we have to determine how many times you guys sing our
It'll be the same time, we'll send them down the same run. They will alternate probably between Tuesday and Wednesday.
Okay.
Because it'll go with their double period. So since they're missing a whole day, they can take that double period to make their work in other classes.
Okay.
So it'll alternate, and it's 10 to 15 weeks. So 10
One time, 10 to 15.
10 to 15 trips.
That's great. That's great. I'm glad for that because it's not a ton, but it's enough. And that 10 or 15 weeks is broken up into 4 or 5 lab pieces.
The paid ones are, you're in that one.
Okay. So you choose.
Yep. And they said they want the top students in there. We're not gonna get our top students, we're not gonna send our pre-med kids into this.
no environmental sciences.
Yes, correct, because of the equipment. Yes, they can be 18. They're a little food service. Yeah, I know. Deli slicers. So we can go ahead and that in front of us.
When do we want to do it?
I want to talk to Bert some more. I need something. I'm not going through all this.
He told me that he could come back and he depends on his dad's health and his health and all that stuff. So, you know, I don't want to say that and then have it be
No, and I wouldn't. This could turn into. I can't promise it.
Agreed.
Do we not start at 7?
We do.
Oh, okay.
We do.
Sorry.
Nope. It's all good.
Yeah. Are we? I have no idea.
It depends on the weather.
Oh,
If we have a delay, no.
okay.
If we don't have delay, yes.
Okay.
How's that?
We'll just go for it.
And if not, we can make it one of the other days here, can't we?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Then that's good. That works.
Oh my God, Hall of Fame.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Fantastic. Oh, that's great news.
Reschedule basketball game. Who would have
Can't
ever
be for any
thought?
better moment.
Our head basketball and golf coach.
That's awesome.
Baseball.
That is awesome. Awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that idea. Cool, cool, cool. Might as well let them all get situated.
Right here next to me.
We even have your name right, Tom. Oh. No. We just need a coat hanger.
Yeah.
We do. What do we need?
Very fruit tree.
We have one. I don't know how to get my attention.
Is it nice?
Hmm?
Very
My
nice.
parents sent in about
I'll put the wood shelf on it. The wood or metal shelf.
Wood.
Metal's nice too.
or, you know, the, so there's like the
Look around.
Oh, did you look at
I
it?
only let myself have one a day.
Is that okay?
Right?
I think it like, highlight, like, I think it's because of your background. So thank you.
I like what you did with the tables. You got the navy and the gray in there.
Uh-huh. I played with it all day.
I really want that.
So it's fun.
Trying, it's hard in the winter. My cousin. Yeah, but it'll get them tomorrow. It's been built for, 2 months. Oh, no. But there's always a tomorrow. So, he's right, it'll get fixed tomorrow, I just don't know which tomorrow. Same with my kitchen door that fell off, like 10 years ago.
So you keep using that?
I would not to see them, cool. But it's not a safe environment.
Oh, thanks. Oh, it's right there. I'm sorry. It's twice I've taken this chair. Oh, there's the chosen on here. Some of this stuff.
Yeah. working.
Thanks.
No.
Right?
It's a township. It's a township, right. But
Ours is not.
oh, I mean, yours is,
Yeah.
so.
Thank you.
Call the meeting of the Montville Area School Board for January 22nd, 2019, to order at 7:06. I need to let you know we had an executive session prior to this meeting. So, presentation?
We have presentations this evening. Mrs. Susan Earl and the mock trial team are here, and we are very excited to be able to honor these students, and she's going to tell us of all of the wonderful activities they've had and what is coming up very shortly for them.
Well, first of all, I'd like to tell you that half of the mock trial team here, for whatever reasons, not all of them could be here this evening. One was in the emergency room with a broken toe an hour ago, so I know where he's at. But I do have Lady Musina, Lennon Musina, and Cole Peterson here from the mock trial team. We competed this past weekend at Penn State in the Blue and White Courtroom Classic. It's an opportunity for our kids to go out and practice our state case against other schools from around the state. And we had a very good showing out there. We were one of 12 teams who competed, and we brought home 2 awards. One for Outstanding Advocate, which was Linda Musina. She was a lawyer for the defense. And Cole Peterson, who is his first year ever doing mock trial, and he brought home an award for Outstanding Witness, again for the defense. And I have to give Cole a few extra plugs here because he filled in. We had a student who was unable to go due to a personal emergency, and Cole stepped up and he filled in for someone else who was filling in for the person who couldn't be there. And not only was he a lawyer for that weekend, he spent time also being a witness that weekend, and it was a double whammy for him because he's in the panic mode of having to do both and excelled at both. We had one student who missed the first day of competition because he was at the 9th grade basketball tournament, came in the second day, did a phenomenal job. Another student who was on Friday morning at West Point competing in a gymnastics tournament, and by Friday evening was back in State College practicing with us, getting ready for the next day. On top of the lack of sleep you guys normally have, those 2 were especially exhausted, which speaks a lot to them. Mock trial, if you're not familiar with it, it's an academic competition team. And the students will receive case materials, which they then have to build into a prosecution or a defense case. So we divide into 2 teams, prosecution, defense, 3 witnesses for each team, 3 lawyers for each team, 2 timekeepers. We're at maximum capacity this year for all of the roles. And one of the things that we do is, in addition to the students working on it, we have to have a lawyer coach from the community. And we've been fortunate the last 2 years to have Nicole Ippolito from the District Attorney's Office who works with us. She's in here every morning. I can count on my hands the number of times she's missed this year, and I still have a few fingers left over because she's here. She's here when the kids get here, and she stays right up until 8:05, 8:10, going through everything with them, make sure they understand the law, make sure that they have their case organized, that they're thinking appropriately of it. So it's really a fantastic experience. I would like to ask London and Cole to come up so they can show you their awards and just talk about their experience for a moment.
So, thank you, Ms. Earl, for the big introduction there. Yeah, like she said, this was my first year. You know, it was a lot to take in, but mock trial is one of the most fun activities that I've been able to do. I'm so glad that I even got a little part of it in my senior year, and that's a lot of fun. I don't really know how much I'm supposed to say up here, but thank you for letting me be a part of this.
I just wish you'd have started sooner.
Yeah, me too, believe me.
Hi, I've been doing mock trial for the past, well, this is my 3rd year of doing it. She recruited me straight out of 8th grade, and ever since then I've been having the time of my life. And it was early freshman year that she said that she realized that I'd be an attorney, or representing an attorney, and this is really the first award I've gotten for it, so this is like a huge thing. And it's been building up for a couple of years now. I've been team captain for 2 years now. I've been treasurer of the mock trial club for 2 years now. This is just a huge thing, and I'd like to thank her so much for her support over the years. It's been amazing. I've had so much fun. Thank you, Ms. Earl.
Thank you.
While you're doing that, I just want to add, first of all, it's not very often that a school district gets to thank an attorney, so thank you. Second, you know, you heard they were talking to you, but they kept looking back at Mrs. Earl. There's a reason for that. This doesn't happen without an adult, a teacher in their lives that support them and support this activity. And we certainly appreciate it, but so does the Lycoming Law Association. They have presented Susan Earl with its 2019 Public Service Award in recognition of and appreciation for her many years of outstanding service to the citizens of Lycoming County and the legal community therein, and that was presented January 14th, 2019. You're stuck in the back of me. I knew she could see it. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Now, before you folks sneak out, I'd like to ask something. Now, when I think of attorneys, I think of people that really need to be good on their feet, like extemporaneous. They need to be right on top of it right away. So, with that in mind, I guess I'm going to ask any one of the students, what's this going to do for you going down the road? No matter what career path you choose, what will this experience do for you? Tell me about that. Who wants to jump on that?
I can.
Go ahead.
I'll think on my feet like you just said.
All right.
I feel like a lot of the skills that mock trial really hones in on are some of the most fundamental skills in life in general. Critical thinking, problem solving, teamwork especially, grace under pressure, and most of all, thinking on your feet. Also public speaking, which is a major plus. So all of those, as you can see, they're practically essential to thrive in adulthood. So because of that, I feel like this is such a great program, even if you're not considering being a lawyer.
Beautiful.
Well said. Very well.
I expected that from you, I really did.
Mrs. Ippolito,
Yes.
did I have that right?
Yes.
I want to mispronounce it. You volunteer your time
Yes, I
to
do.
come in to help our students, multiple days per week.
Yes.
You're the very type of person that this board talked about earlier this evening. People who give of themselves and give of their time and their talents to further the education of our students and to just be a valued community member. I honestly don't know if you live in the Montoursville School District or not.
Actually, the Williamsport School.
It doesn't matter. No, it doesn't matter. It's people like you that bring value to a district and to a community, and for that, speaking for many, I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have to say that working with all of these guys is really my pleasure. It's nice to see our future and that it looks so bright because these guys are amazing. They really are. They work very hard, and so does Ms. Earl. It's really fun for me to be a part of. So.
And I was also, kind of Bill stole my thunder, but Mrs. Earl, thank you as a staff member, and this is above and beyond, I know, and you spent many years doing this, but thank you. I'm going to say Nicole because that's easier. But this was a discussion that we had earlier about getting community involved. How do we get community involved in doing things? And it's pretty ironic that you sit here and so, but I thank you as a board, and I know the community of Montoursville thanks you for your input, all of you and students, because we have the best students out there, I tell you.
They are fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I have something.
Okay.
Recently, the academic decathlon competition was held here at the high school. Montoursville students placed second out of 8 teams. Our students earning medals were in the Scholastic Division: Hunter Moyer, Alexander Kramer, Ben Couttet, Emily Burton, and in the varsity division, it was Melissa Klein. Is that Eddie or Edie? Eddie Brown, Michael Speck, Kylie Snyder, Cadence Jones, and Andy Mayo. On behalf of the board, I want to congratulate them students.
Yep, thank you.
All right, next, Dan. You are up.
Talk a little bit about the course catalog and changes to some graduation requirements based on state changes. But I want to back up. Last time I presented, I ended with this slide about the high school, our next steps in the next 5+ years. The first thing you see up there is STEM, science and math curriculum. We've had, one of the benefits of being at both buildings is there's been a lot more communication between the staff, faculty at both buildings. And what's come out of that has been tremendous. There are changes to the science curriculum, which you're going to see coming up. There are changes to the math curriculum because of that, which you're going to see coming up. I think you have some news on
I
that front, too.
definitely have some fantastic news. We had 2 teaching staff
who decided that they would like to apply for the state STEM funds. They were awarded the maximum amount of money, $35,000, to help with professional development and actual products to be used in our STEM lab. So congratulations to Meg Altabrando and Stephanie Beadle. They did a phenomenal job in getting.
I have to tell you, I saw Mr. Alvarado at Rupert's, and he said his wife was so excited when she came home from school that day that they were awarded the contract, and so.
Yeah, it's gonna allow us to expand what we're doing in fifth, and get that into sixth grade, for next year, hopefully. So, really good news on that front, and a lot of things moving that direction overall at high school. The other thing up there, I haven't read what we're actually looking at implementing for next year. Shifting to the new ESSA plan and the Future Ready PA Index, and I'm gonna go over that. I shouldn't be here too long, but we'll go over that. And expansion of the AP courses based on AP potential. The one in red there, environmental science, that's the one we're looking at putting in for next year. Dan Tucker is doing that one. And then the last two there, the additional dual enrollment opportunities with actual on-campus classes for our students, and workforce development, career readiness, and career pathways. That's all contained within next year's programming. So what does that technology? I'm gonna have to walk back and forth.
Do you want me to sit back here and do it?
Yeah, I can walk and talk. So our graduation requirements. They're going to change significantly based on ESSA. ESSA is the Every Student Succeeds Act. It was passed in December 10th of 2015, and it replaces No Child Left Behind. PA had their plan accepted in January of 2018, and we are moving forward with that. The things it focuses on, and you see it there, academic achievement is a critical component of it. They want to know the percent proficient and advanced on your state assessments, and they look at your average growth index. The other thing that's important to them is a graduation rate. It always used to be a 4-year. I was happy to see a 5-year because we put a lot of time and effort into holding on to kids that aren't on track and getting them out of here in that 5th year. English language proficiency, they're concerned about that, not so much in our district. Our numbers are low in that. Attendance, chronic absenteeism, they're really honed in on that. Chronic absenteeism in this plan is defined as 18 days of school. So what you're going to see in next year's code of conduct, we have a benchmark of 20, and kids are excluded from activities, dances, that type of thing. We will be lowering that to 18 to comply with ESSA. And then the final thing is career readiness. So those are what we're measured on now, much more than just the state tests, the Keystones and the PSSAs. It takes a larger snapshot of what we do here. It's still a snapshot, but it's much bigger than that 1 day, 2 day, 3 day of testing from the past. So the Future Ready Index is what they're using to compile all this. If you recall from before, it was the school performance profile. You got a number, they got your test results, and that's what you were measured on in the public's eye and at the state level. The Future Ready Index
Leveling the playing field, focusing on student growth, exploring career pathways, reducing the reliance on standardized testing, ensuring students graduate college and career ready, promoting multiple pathways to future success. These are just some of the ways the Future Ready PA Index would work to provide a more holistic measure of school success in the Commonwealth. The Future Ready PA Index, the proposed accountability tool to assess school performance, would broaden the factors used to evaluate school and student performance. Some of those factors include measuring English language acquisition among ESL students, considering how many students at a school take advanced placement courses or take advantage of dual enrollment programs, utilizing locally chosen reading assessments for select grades, meeting the needs of each student, counting the number of students who earn industry credentials before graduation, among other snapshots of student progress. The Department of Education traveled the state as it developed the Future Ready PA Index, speaking to thousands of stakeholders at more than 30 feedback sessions, from Philadelphia to Pittsburgh, Lancaster to Lehigh. Educators, employers, advocates, and others weighed in. The message we heard loud and clear: there is no single way to measure student success. PDE's mission is to ensure that all Pennsylvanians, whether children or adults, have access to a high-quality education system that prepares them for future success, whether they choose college or career. Working together, we can help all students in PA become future ready.
Bless you. So we're excited about this change because we are and have been very well positioned for this kind of measure. You heard them mention AP. I said it before and I'll say it again. There's really not many schools better at that than us. You heard about the career readiness and the industry certifications and standards. It's now taking a broader look at what we do. And they said that's proposed, it's up and running. And you can go find the Future Ready Index. I have a quick little click through of what that looks like for the high school. So you can search by name. And what you see are all the measures they are mentioning. The state assessment measures there on the left, on track measures, how we're performing in ELL, English language learning, and then college and career measures. Blue's good, green's good. When you get into the reds and down arrows, not so good. You can get into some fast facts about the school and also about the district. So it gives you a breakdown. Back to the performance, you can drill down further. So you have your growth measures, your proficient and advanced measures, number of kids advanced on the state assessments overall. Our on track measures, so there's the English language proficiency, our attendance numbers, it has all the goals that we are supposed to meet by the end of this. That's statewide averages.
Is this continuously updated? Is this for this year?
This is for last school year, based on last school year's data, and it will be updated annually.
Okay.
There's the rigorous course of study. Post-secondary transition. So all that data we dump into PIMS, the Pennsylvania Information Management System, gets put out to the public. It's something that's accessible and usable to them. So I've quickly summed up everything that's in this, and it's what's driving the decisions moving forward. So the state has consistently postponed Keystones as a requirement for graduation. They kept pushing back, pushing back, pushing back. We kept it as policy that our students needed to graduate with Keystone exams proficient or advanced. And then if they can't get that, we have a local assessment that we use. And I'm gonna show you how that impacts kids here in a little bit. What the state has done, they're telling you, yeah, you can keep that. So the first line there, scoring proficient or advanced on each Keystone exam, that's in Algebra 1, Literature and Biology, kid can graduate. They've met the state requirement. The second one up there, if they can't get to that, they're going to come up with a composite score. So averaging all 3 tests together, doing some magic math that the state is good at, they'll come up with a score. If a kid hits that, they'll have met the state requirement. What this does is it gives multiple pathways for kids to graduate. We still have local control. We still can set our local credits, but these are the measures in terms of the accountability to the state and to the feds that we're now allowed to use. The third one, earning a passing grade on the courses associated with each Keystone exam. So if they pass biology, algebra, and English 10, they've met part of that requirement. The second part is if they've completed an alternative assessment, such as the SAT, PSAT, ACT, ASVAB, you can see the rest there. Advanced coursework, AP. That's the one that is most important to our kids. That's the one that this high school set up for most. 95% of our kids will meet the state graduation requirement based on that third one. The next is earning a passing grade on the course associated with each Keystone exam. So again, passing algebra, biology, English 10, and the NOCTI exam. So our tech students, they'll be able to check off the requirement, the grad requirement on that step. And then the last one, same thing, earning that passing grade, and then demonstrate readiness for post-secondary engagement through 3 pieces of evidence from the student's career portfolio. The student career portfolio is implemented. We have started that this year with our kids. It's a requirement of the state. So if all else fails, we can still graduate a kid because we will have those 3 pieces of evidence, assuming they pass the course. Well, they have to pass the course to get the credits. So we feel this is going to boost our graduation percentage and hopefully reduce our dropout rate. Our current requirements, it's small. I didn't make it real big on there. I have things highlighted on there. Keystone exam, there's a check mark on that credit sheet. We use this for every kid. Anytime a parent calls in and wants to know where their kid stands, pull out the credit sheet and go through it with them. The key to that thing is Keystone exams were required of all our kids. And what that does, and these are our technical kids, those going in the workforce, those going in the military. Not all cases, but most. What they end up doing is they're in biology twice, they're in a Keystone biology remedial class, so they get 3 years of a Keystone course. Algebra, they end up with 3 years of algebra. They end up repeating algebra, and if they still don't get it, they're in Keystone algebra. So in 9th grade, kid that's in Algebra 1 will take that Keystone exam in May. They don't pass the Keystone. They end up in, and some do not pass Algebra 1, so they end up back in Algebra 1. They take a makeup test, a retest. They take that in January. They're then in 10th grade English, so they take a Keystone in May. They also went from life and physical science in 9th grade to biology in 10th grade. They take a Keystone in May. And then if they weren't successful on that January Algebra 1 test, and we have 30 to 40 kids in that boat, they take an Algebra 1 Keystone in May. So what happens is they end up with a total of sitting for this test 8 different times. And some will never pass it. And to give you an idea, I'll have kids that won't pass a biology Keystone, but they'll get a 3-4 on an AP Bio test at the end of AP Biology. So it's not just the technical kids, it's some of our college-bound kids as well. So we're looking at this ESSA plan, and that third bullet I showed you, the passing grade on the course, that's critical. They're not going to be able to graduate if they don't pass the course. So we get them to pass the course, and we have a couple options there to help our kids in this course catalog. And then they complete one of the following. The key for us is the PSAT. We pay for and kids sit for the PSAT in October, 9 through 11. They all take it.
So they will automatically satisfy that requirement.
So they don't have to get a specific score, they just have to take it.
Right now, there's no specific score. I imagine the state may change that. If that's the case, we will then set up, because we have 20 to 25 students take the ASVAB every year. We'll see that number grow, because that's a free test. The military comes in and gives that exam. So we're sitting really good in that area, on that bullet. And then we can fall back always to the advanced coursework, any kid in AP class, concurrent enrollments or dual enrollment courses, we have several of those. And then if they're accepted in a 4-year college, we can use that too. So as I said earlier, 95% of our kids will fall into meeting this requirement for the state's graduation requirement.
Dan, if there's no minimum score on the PSAT, they just have to take it. Where's the value there?
For the kid, being able to check off a box saying they can graduate according to the state. We'll probably have 70% of our kids care about that test. 30 will just not really interested, because they're going to work or the military. But it gets them a chance to check off a graduation requirement without going through 8 sittings of the Keystone exam, and being placed in a remediation class and repeating courses. I've got several kids that are stuck in algebra, stuck in biology. They may never see another science or math, and that's not doing a service to that kid or the greater community. There's much more to science here than biology. I'm a chem teacher, so I'm allowed to say that.
Dan, what's the difference between the PSAT and the military ASVAB?
PSAT is a college measure. The ASVAB is a military measure.
They're very different tests.
Very different tests.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
What's
It's more
the
of an
difference in
aptitude.
the test?
The PSAT is set up like an SAT. The ASVAB is set up more like a mechanical test and electronics test and a functionality test. It is completely different.
It's an aptitude and career readiness type exam. The PSAT is a college readiness type exam.
So the ASVAB test is more for somebody that does hands-on work.
More the technical kid, yeah. And we may, as we've been talking this through, we may have them select, because it doesn't make sense to have a kid sit through a PSAT if they're not college bound. They can always pick that up at another time, later on, their 11th grade year.
With the ASVAB, would that possibly, because it's sort of aptitude oriented, maybe give them some hands-on, perhaps where they could and should go, it might be best suited?
Yeah, it gives them a pretty good list of what their likes are, what they're ready for, and the military will come in and interpret those scores for the kids to take that. So that may end up, so we're buying less PSATs and for the kids that really want the PSAT, and then the ASVAB for those that have no interest in taking in college.
Is that another test where you don't fail or pass?
The ASVAB?
Yeah.
Yeah. It gives you information, measures your aptitude, it doesn't...
Are all those tests the same? In other words...
There's no pass-fail, but kids have a general idea of what a good PSAT, SAT score is.
Okay.
Yeah. The ASVAB, no, that's...
You do get a score.
Right, you get a score, but as far as pass-fail...
It doesn't tell you you're basic or below basic,
right,
or deficient, it just, here it is. The PSAT is built into just their knowledge of what a good score is and what isn't.
The SAT does have implications. If my daughter would have got 10 more points on her SAT, she'd have got an additional 1,750 on scholarship. So 10 points, she misses 1,750 a year. So yeah, it matters.
Yeah, the SAT
Think about the
does.
ACTs, because our son missed it by what, 120? Lots of money, or 1 point.
And you'll always remind them.
Yes, we will.
Almost that good.
It's like losing in overtime.
What I've learned from the ASVAB is when you are signed up for the military, the
score then denotes what positions you are allowed to apply for. My oldest just took the ASVAB, she can apply for any job that they have, but had she done between this measure and this measure, she would have only been allowed to choose this position.
And the ACT is an option for kids. I mean, all the SAT, PSAT, ACT, the one we're geared for here that we're sure everybody takes is the PSAT, because we pay for it. It also helps our Future Ready Index score. So to answer your question more, maybe not so much for the kid, but for us, it boosts that college and career readiness score on the Future Ready Index. So the more we have participating.
You want the ACT. That's a new one now.
Yeah, and
more of that too.
we don't have many. I think last year we had, it was in the teens, kids that took the ACT.
The ACT is becoming more of a requirement too with the SAT. Yeah.
It's broader, it covers 4 subjects instead of just math and reading, and our kids generally do better on it, the ACT. So we try to recommend that.
Does everybody going into the military need to take the ASVAB now?
Yes.
Because, I mean, when I went in, you just had to know how to sign your name.
No, that's changed. It's changed a little. You need that exam, and you need a high school diploma these days.
Well, you did need that.
Ron, didn't we say a while ago, not less than an hour ago, what was good at that point may not be good at this point anymore? Change.
Moving on.
So we're proposing getting rid of, and that's a state focus too, reducing test time for kids. We've seen it on the PSSA. They reduced questions. They reduced time that kids are testing. There is still dialogue out there right now. Our 7th graders and 8th graders that are in Algebra 1 will take the Keystone exam in May after they've finished the PSSA in those grades in April. So there's some dialogue still going on eliminating the PSSA if they're in an Algebra 1 course at the middle school. So it will just be the Keystone test that those kids take in math. So they're not sitting for 2 tests in 1 year. So our proposal is to eliminate all of that testing. It causes grief for all of us, most importantly our kids. We're still required to give them. We're going to require them to take that exam 1 time at the end of the course. What we are proposing to eliminate is the requirement to pass that exam and rely on that 3rd bullet of ESSA to meet the state requirement. It makes more sense for us. We lost some of our identity and what we do by focusing on these tests in algebra and biology and English at the high school. In the state, it forced us into that. But this is what the direction we'd like to go. Less reliance on that state testing. So what it did, it triggered a lot of discussions between math and science, and we created some new sequences. We have the college prep that's 4-year, college prep for a 2 or 4-year student, and the technical track. Everything's the same. Biology, honors biology, that all stays in the curriculum. What changes is what we do for those technical kids, the hands-on kids. We ask them to sign up for life and physical science in 9th grade. We then have them do the STEM class, which is all hands-on, or environmental science, which is the best final in the history of finals. They actually go to a state park and camp, and the fish commission comes in, and it's an incredible trip for our students. Or they can sign up for chemistry in that track. And then in grade 11, we're proposing a technical biology class, which is focused on PA biology. It'll hit the necessary things for the Keystone exam, but it's going to be geared a lot more towards PA, its species, its plants, animals, jobs available in biology here in Pennsylvania, and that's all. I'm allergic to biology, so I'm not going to say too much about that. That will be Dan Heinrichs.
He'd be the only one then.
For that course. He's got a heavy interest in the local biology. And he's
he's got connections with the game commission and the fish and that sort of thing. So it's gonna change, and it's hands-on. It's a hands-on course. So they're not sitting and listening to biology lecture and then going back to a lab and figuring out how cells divide, and it's gonna be the basics. It's gonna get them through so they are comfortable taking the Keystone. They may not pass, but they're also gonna be able to check off that credit, that biology credit. It's not watered down, it's different. It's still gonna be an academic class, because these guys may end up going to a 2-year program, and they're gonna need some foundation. The other thing, and it's buried in there, is AP Environmental Science. Our AP potential numbers, and that's more voodoo math from College Board. They tell us, based on other test results, how many kids would be successful in an AP class. And environmental science comes up as a big one. And we've had kids asking for that particular course. With the debate on, and we're not getting into that debate tonight, with the debate on global warming, I'll stop there. So we're not getting into it. With that debate, it's opened up our kids' eyes into, hey, maybe we need to go into this field. So I think it's going to be a popular course. I don't have numbers yet. We just started that process. There's the technical bio description. Again, pretty basic. You'll find that in the book. The other thing we did for the technical students, we brought back Algebra 1A and 1B. And what that is Algebra 1 over 2 years. We've tried so many different ways to deliver Algebra 1. We've tried it with labs. We've tried it with 6 days, and then the following year a Keystone course. We're getting results, but it's just beating kids down. And again, I have kids in Algebra 1 for three years in a row, some of them. So we're putting the 1A and 1B back in. So it'll be 2 years, over 2 years. And then their junior year, they can take that technical math class, which is more trade related, more real world experiences with math. So it should be another good course for that track of students.
So the credits will be split, right?
For 1A and 1B, they're 1 credit courses, so they'll get a credit for 1A in 9th grade and a credit for 1B.
Right, but what I mean is when it was just Algebra 1, was that 2 credit
It was just
course?
1 credit.
Oh, it was just 1?
Yeah. Last year when we ran it as a lab, it was 1.5.
Okay.
And then they have the option their senior year to take consumer review math. And why these sequences are like this eventually, and that's not on the 5-year, but it is a discussion we're going to have. We require 26 credits. It's 4 in social studies, 4 in English, 3 in math, 3 in science. We're so strong in the sciences here. We have kids doubling up. We'd like them to pick, kind of have a menu of where they want to put their credits. So that kid that wants to take 5, 6 science credits, they might only need 2 social studies credits, but that's still in the works, and we're not ready to jump there yet. You got to get the programs built first, and then that direction. So that's the technical math description. Again, exciting stuff. It's in the book. You had a chance to read it. So what we're getting down to is all students going to take 3 Keystone exams. 1 in algebra, and that would be at the end of 1B. So we're not going to have them take a test at the end of 1A and then 1B. It would be at the end of 1B, or Algebra 1, and then biology and English 10 or Honors English 10, also Honors Biology. So three sittings for the state assessment. So other things in the course, any questions on that? We're not changing our credit counts, still 26 to graduate, still in those compartments, but we're looking at reducing that reliance on the test.
The only question I have, Dan, is who sets what the credits are per course? Is that the state that sets that, or does a district set that?
District sets it, and we set it based on days. A 6-day course is 1 credit. A 3-day course is half a credit, a 9-day course is 1.5 credits. And that's seat time,
Right.
essentially. Colleges are similar in what they do with their credit hours. So any other questions on the direction where, it's gonna ease a lot of our kids' mind. There's a lot of anxiety over this test, and I think it's gonna help.
I think that's, you hear a lot about the test, and take tests, take tests, take tests, and I think if you're gonna reduce that.
What is our dropout rate now?
I don't have it off the top of my head. What I can tell you is I'm alarmed and concerned the direction it's trending. It's the past 10 years, it's been in a steady decline. I believe it's it hit a low of less than 5-6%, but it's creeping back up. We had 17 freshmen retained last year. And research will tell you that's the year, that's the critical year in high school. If they're failing and losing interest then, that's gonna lead to a dropout. So these changes are primarily because of that number that struck me as very alarming, of what's happening. And that's our changing clientele in the district. We've got a different group than we're used to teaching here. We've got to change and meet their needs. So that's why the technical bio and technical math are so important for us. If I had to sit, no offense, Mrs. Krebs, if I had to sit down to the one for 3 years with Mrs. Krebs, I would be done too, and it's not because of her. She's wonderful, fantastic. Many of you know her. It's, here we go with Algebra 1 again. And then I'm going to have to sit for that test. So when we started moving more towards a reliance on these exams, we start seeing the number of dropouts increase. Now they blame other things, but if you're stuck in remedial courses in the same subject for 3 years, you're going to be tired of school too.
So besides these changes.
Should have it down pat.
Besides these changes that you just showed us, what other ideas can you share with us?
Yeah.
To try to keep them in school?
The new programs and courses that we're putting in place. One's the technical, biotechnical, just being able to move them through, having them have some success. You know, some kids, they're going to just hate school no matter what you do. But if they start having success in these courses and know there's light at the end, they're going to stick with it. Keeping those programs out in the tech ed building running are essential to us continuing. We need to get students more involved in our clubs and activities. I stood in front of 8th grade parents the other night. We have something for everybody here. We really do. Saw mock trial. I wish we could teach all our courses like that. You heard the skills that they're picking up. I mean, the reality is we can't, but in an ideal world, grades would disappear, and that's how we teach. But the engagement of the kid here in the high school is critical. If we keep them plugged in and keep them involved, we'll most likely get them to their senior year. We did it in the past. There was a year we had absolutely zero dropouts a few years back. Is that reality? Probably not. That was great circumstances that got us there. But we can certainly work to trim that number down. 17 could drop out from that last year's freshman class, which would be horrible. So what we're going to do with the 8th grade coming in, and I told the parents this the other night too, I'm in discussions with the middle school principal to try and get the 8th graders up here at the end of the year for a club fair, an activity fair. Expose them to the school, take them on tours, feed them lunch in the caf, get them exposed to the building and what high school is towards the end when we have some downtime.
How's that discussion going with the principal over there?
It's going okay. Yeah, a lot of arguments. He is just hard to deal with, isn't he?
Is there any changes to? Is there any changes to the ability
to move on to the next grade. Any changes to that?
Yeah, we
The
used to keep,
17 ninth graders are,
we used to keep plowing them through. And we had a problem there because kids would get to the end of their 4th year with 12 credits and think they were graduating with their class because they were labeled a senior. So we went back to holding the line on our retentions. And it just, we need to find something that we discussed today, credit recovery. We visited State College. What they do is when they find a kid struggling midpoint, they yank them. They pull them out of that class. There's no hope that they're going to pass it, and they start them on their credit recovery. So they earn that credit, and then they're able to get to the next grade. Because that's deflating too. When you tell a kid, hey, you're not moving on to 10th grade. So we need to find a happy medium. And I don't know what that is yet.
This year is the first year for the shortened PSSAs, isn't it?
Last year.
Was they shortened last
Yeah.
year?
Yep. Yeah, they implemented that pretty quick.
They must have just got it in before the test.
It was enough to give DRC time to print the short test, so. So that fair, that club and activity fair, will help have them connect, quicker to the clubs and activities. That's our hope. And then get them involved and get them exposed to something they might like. So, a couple things we're trying. Other things, some of our newer programs, and these are for as they progress up through 11th and 12th grade, partnering with Lycoming College, a STEAM high school scholars program. This would be kids going to their campus to take courses. So they are exposed to campus experience before even graduating from high school. This is huge because of the number of credits they can earn. And it's STEAM because they require science or math in one of the blocks. So if you look at the top left quadrant, you have biology, chem, fundamentals of astronomy and math, which is their calculus in that quadrant. And then the lower quadrant are their arts. So STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math. When they throw the A in there, that's the arts. So that lower left quadrant, they have to take the science or math course on the top. On the lower, they're taking a survey of art, anthropology, American studies. Some foreign languages are listed there, so there are some options for them. And they're on campus. They are a student at Lycoming College and a student here. They take those there. Well, what's interesting, this is actually the 2nd year. Last year was a pilot, and the pilot went nowhere. We had no kids interested. They did not want to give up their high school experience, which was neat from my perspective to hear. That's not hard data you can collect, but it's anecdotal data that kids that would be interested in this don't want to give this up to go there. So, and they can take fall semester, spring semester, and they could do this for 2 years, 11th grade and 12th grade. So we have a couple.
This year.
We have a couple interested this year.
What times are this year? We were the only ones to be part of the pilot this year.
Oh, this year's the pilot.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said last year, I'm sorry.
No, this year,
Okay.
and nobody's
Nobody's
there.
you have a
Right
couple
now.
issues for next year.
We'll pilot again. I got 2 solid yeses now. So.
how does that work? The district then pays tuition to Lycoming College?
We pay the tuition, a very discounted rate, much like CTC, where we pay the extra. It was
$5,200.
$4,000 for this.
Oh,
We
for
do
Lycoming
all
College?
4 semesters.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's cheaper than,
Yeah.
Do we do any online courses for credits?
We do. Most of our credit recovery is online. We do it through two places. Actually, it's not credit recovery, it's enrichment, or our gifted students use BYU, Brigham Young University's online stuff. So they have some good programming. For credit recovery, we have a couple of options. Our primary one is, we've all heard of PA Cyber, largest cyber charter school in the state. I buy direct from them, at a discounted rate. We get our courses from them.
Their advertisements say they're free.
If you enroll full-time, they are.
No, they're free for the
Our
students.
taxpayers' money if they're.
Yes. Or
So the
past it.
district will pay, so parents don't pay.
That's correct.
This is similar to the LICO CTC program. Transportation, no.
Right, okay.
They're responsible for getting there. And this is messy because the college schedule does not match up with the high school schedule. And we're I'm in turmoil now on how to correct that because I hate block scheduling. And block scheduling would fix some of this. And visiting state college, they're on block schedule and they're doing some cool things. So I'm gonna have to look at it with the faculty.
Talk with the middle school principal about it.
Okay. The other exciting news and partnership is with Geisinger in right now in Danville. This one we're super excited about because of the hospital they're building down the road in off Pennsdale, off Pennsdale exit. It's going to be a lot closer for us to strengthen this partnership. What it is, it's a medical careers program. It is for a nursing-bound student, and you can help me with this, there are multiple categories of health careers, medical careers that kids can go into. It's not a full-blown nurse, and this is to expose them to those different careers. When I talked about a career-type model, a career pathway, this does that. So kids enrolled in this will get exposed to all the options for them. They'll get exposed to the actual hospital. They will go to the hospital. There will be paid positions as interns for our students. There will be observation hours for our students. And Steve Tressler is going to be the one heading this up for us. He's done an amazing job in helping us secure this partnership. So our kids get to go to the hospital for this particular course, for this experience. It's not every day. It's 1 day a week, 10 to 15 week experience. But they're going to learn the basic anatomy and physiology that they need for their field. Ideally, this partnership will extend to a nursing program. We'll be talking maybe through Penn College. To get maybe some of those first year courses, we have that Penn College Now partnership. We would be delighted to embed some of that into this, so they're getting their first year of maybe a 2-year program out of the way their senior year in high school. And being able to have hours at an actual hospital helps that. When it's here locally, it's going to be a whole lot easier and a lot more opportunities for kids. These positions will extend into the summer, these paid positions. They link them in, they become an employee of Geisinger. So it'll be a neat experience for them. And this is just a huge field in our area right now, in most areas. So the other part of this, you need a lot more than the medical professions to run the hospital. So we've started talking to them about a hospital services program, which would be those kids for landscaping, maintenance, and that's a little iffy right now because of their requirements for maintenance staff, food service, custodial, janitorial, that type of thing. So kids that want to go into the workforce, we have a science option for them as well that can turn into a paid position for them. And they will go down and spend the same time observing and working alongside the professionals at Geisinger. That is new for them, and they're very excited about it because they are having a hard time finding employees, good employees. And when I'm older and checking into hospitals, as embarrassing as it might be, I want Montoursville students stepping me through that and working on me because I know the preparation they get. So we're excited about those two programs. The AP Environmental Science was mentioned. And finally, I think this is the last one. In 9th grade, we have a rotation in 9th grade. Phys Ed for 2 9 weeks, Then they go to a info lit class, which is a library class. And then the last was computer applications. That's been frustrating for both teacher and kids. We're teaching Word, PowerPoint, Excel. Kids come to us pretty much knowing a lot about Word and a lot about PowerPoint. They don't have a clue about Excel. And we use that heavily in our sciences. So we still need a way to hold on to that, but change the course. And something I hear from the community constantly and from others is kids don't know about checkbooks, credit cards, handling their own finances. So we're putting financial literacy in place of the computer apps. And what we've got buried in there is a personal budget that they have to prepare in Excel. So we'll still get to our Excel things that we need, but give them some really life skills that they'll need leaving here. So 9th grade might be a little bit early, but from things I read from the state, they're pushing down into that grade with this because kids are getting jobs earlier with financial situations at home to help support what goes on at home. So we're excited about that. Linda Kaiser is extremely excited about that. She's in a rut with that computer applications, and this is going to get her out of that and really do something useful with our kids in managing their future monies. That's the career portfolio that we put together. I've talked long enough. Any other questions?
I don't have any questions, but I have to say that I was really impressed going through that catalog and seeing what's being offered and thinking back to what I was offered in high school. I was mind blown. But I think you have a lot of variety there, so I'm really impressed. And a lot of ideas for growth too. Thank you.
And hopefully you'll see that go down.
Yeah, the dropout. And that's the faculty's work. They really do a fine job. A lot of that science and math stuff that you see is from that collaboration between the middle and the high school. And there's more coming at the middle school level changes. When I returned here in 07, 08, I graduated in 89. The place hadn't changed. The courses were the same. Everything felt the same. It looked essentially the same. So to see this, this was one of the big things that we used to make that change, to rebuild our programs and give kids what they want. We are proud of this as a school. I know the faculty's proud of it. They're proud of their offerings. We do. If you can't find it here, there's a problem. We offer a little bit of something for everybody, and it's important to keep that. I feel it makes us what and who we are. So I appreciate the comment.
Too, how engaged the staff is when these meetings come together. They are engaged. They are excited. And when we talk about new programs and new things that they want to do, and we say, okay, let's try it. Let's listen and do those things. They're amazing when they get to put things together and really hear them. And Dan does an excellent job with that. So I'm very, very excited because we do have so many offerings, and we talked about not having status quo. We don't have status quo. We are moving in the right directions. All of our students.
Right, yeah, these options weren't here when my kids graduated.
Right.
In the early 2000s. Right. It's awesome.
We're a different beast these days, and we will continue to change and shift to our students' needs. But it's important for us to get out of testing mode. That would be status quo for us. We were heading that route, and the frustration from the teachers in those Keystone courses clearly on their faces and in their dialogue with me. So kudos to them for wanting to change. It's not always like that in public ed. We have something really special here with the faculty and our kids.
So Dan,
Thank
with
you.
the other school districts in our area, and I look at the other 7, are we leading the way? Is anybody, are we breaking
I don't want
this?
to talk about other
but
districts. I think we're doing what we need to serve our students and our clientele, and we're doing it really well. The other districts have their strengths.
They have a niche,
so,
we have a niche.
Yeah.
I'm just glad to see it getting away from teaching to the test and for the students, and we had a daughter, you know, do very, very well in school, but test day, you know, didn't test well, just did not test well, and I'm happy to see less emphasis on it, like you said, a 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, you know, series of tests.
I'm so glad to hear you say that, because my repeated message to our staff has been, forget it. Just forget that test. The SSAs, the Keystones, don't be focused on 1 or 2 days of what you've put into the students' ability to learn or what they have put into the test. It's not the true measure of who you are.
No, it certainly is not.
So, and I'm going to tell you, a PSSA does not measure what kind of parent you're going to be, what kind of neighbor you're going to be, or what kind of employee you're going to be. It does not measure the quality of your heart and what you can contribute at all. So, I'm really glad to hear you say that, because it reinforces what we've been saying.
And it certainly doesn't measure the level of success that you may achieve in life. It has nothing to do with it. It has nothing to do
Some
with it.
people just are not test takers.
No. No, they're not.
And I also like to say that I like the idea that, we're finally getting away from, you have to go to college, because not everybody is made out to go to college. And let's face it, there's a lot of jobs out there that pay just as much or more than some college graduates make. But for so long, and not just in Toursville was that way, but every school district was that way, where they pushed, you gotta go to college, you gotta go to college. Parents pushed, you gotta go to college, you gotta go to college, and it's not for everybody. And I think every district's finally starting to realize that all kids are not college material.
I even think those that are college material, Ron, can't afford it.
True.
You look at
And
tuition rates for students and what the debt is that they're going to hold.
And
It's
the other
unfair.
thing, they have numbers on how many of our graduates went to college, but they don't keep the numbers, did they go for the full, the full degree, or did they drop out after a year or 2 years? Those numbers aren't available.
Are they
So-
working in the field that they went to college for?
Exactly.
The Geisinger proposal is so important, because Geisinger will pay for college. So if you start and you're employed there and you wish to have a change, they will help you with that change, and they will pay for those credits. And then you owe them so much time back, like the military. The military is amazing, because I didn't know all of the jobs that you could have in the military. So there are so many options.
Well, there's more jobs in the military than there is out in the private sector, because, in the private sector, you can't shoot missiles and,
Yes.
You could, that's not land.
Well, speaking for I think the board here, we need to thank you and the staff and everybody for putting this, catalog together, and I know it's been a lot of work, hard work, and so I think kudos to everyone who's helped out and got to where we are today, so.
Thank you, pass it along to the staff.
Miss Brandy? I thought we were done committees. Do we have committees? I thought we were doing committees in every work session. Oh, do you want to do committees now, or do you
Yeah,
want to do
does any committee have anything other than budget? Do you have anything for foundation, and any updates since?
Just, they're continuing to move ahead on their, the March, what is that, March
28th?
March 28th.
The dinner.
Any other committee have anything? If not,
the only thing I have is that, the wording on that policy, that was finalized, correct?
907, yes.
Right, and all employees have been notified of it?
No, once Diana has them completely typed up, that 907 will just be her, so as soon as they are typed up, she will send them out to all employees.
And there was a couple more that were changed
Yes.
too.
Yes, they were all due to the special ed audit.
Right.
So we will send all of those out then. Yeah, I shared that with her, and I think that's a good idea to do that.
Okay,
Um,
you sure? Oh, go ahead.
can we just report the next committee to the PSBA, or do you want us?
Yeah, I mean, unless you have something special, I mean,
Dave and I went to the
okay,
training
yeah, go ahead.
last Friday, or last Thursday. Dave drove in the snow.
Thank you, Dave.
I think we had some good tidbits. I don't have my notes with me, but there's some excellent tidbits we came away with, one that we worked on a little bit. I just wanted to announce that there is a meeting here on March 23rd, I believe. So I would encourage everybody to come to that meeting, and you can register online, and I don't believe there's a cost for it.
We have all access, so there should not be a cost
Yeah.
for it.
So,
So everyone is welcome to come to that. What time is it?
I think it's 6.
6 to 8.
if you go to this website, you'll find it.
We were just sent an email on it also.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
And just to piggyback on what Dottie said about the meeting, it was, to one degree, it wasn't what I was hoping for. It was fine, I'm glad I went. I was hoping for a little more nuts and bolts on budgeting, but, it was some flyover stuff and more overview stuff, and that was okay, that was fine. They walked us through some of the PDE, websites, and you can do it. You don't have to just gobble up data, there's all kinds of stuff in the PDE website. The first session sort of dealt with things we were talking about in our session earlier, just about, I guess, who are we, why are we here, what are we doing, kind of a thing. So it was good. Sorry.
Well,
It
thank
was
you both
interesting
for all.
to see in the data what we pay per student versus within our budget.
Yeah, that was pleasantly surprised that
Our
we're like,
ranking versus our cost,
oh,
we
yeah,
were doing really good.
we're way down, and way down in the good way. I was shocked at I was looking at across the table, one of the other fellows from a district up in the Northeast, and my jaw just about dropped and hit the floor when I saw their per student cost compared to ours, and they aren't a big school district either, so we're okay. Always can do better, but we're not, not a disaster by any means.
And they warned us to look at what we pay per student and then look at our outcomes. You know, we have good outcomes, especially for the smaller amount that we pay per
You
student.
might remember Curtis shared that with us with the IDIC system in his presentation. He shared where we were scoring as far as what we were spending, and it should be the same information that way.
Mhm.
That
The number was 17,000, wasn't it?
No,
Yeah,
Per student?
per student somewhere.
Yeah,
We
right
ranked
around 17, I'm just,
406
off the top of
out
my
of 500.
not for us, we're not spending 17.
oh, I thought that was a number.
Ours was 8 something,
There's two different
Well,
numbers.
there's two different numbers.
one for special and one for regular ed.
Right, one was 14 and one was.
One included your debt service and
Yes.
one didn't.
Yes.
Well, that certainly
The
has to be included.
17,000 included your debt service, but that was still a whole lot less than, and it was, the 8,000 didn't include the debt. And that was for 2016 numbers, I believe. So it was
16, was it 16, 17, because they would have had those in IDICs, yes.
But it was, I was happy with what we were doing.
Thank you for attending.
That meeting's Wednesday, March 13th, 6 to 8.
Yeah, I thought it was
Oh,
earlier,
that's right.
13.
Okay, thank you.
That's what I was looking for, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Barrett.
Oh, you're welcome.
Ready?
Ready?
Yep.
Tonight we're gonna talk about some of the items that we have, some control over with the budget. And then we will just touch on some of the items that we have less control over and when we will have better estimates of those items. So, first we're gonna talk about the timeline. Right now, we are gonna discuss, starting tonight with the budget. Then we have the work session in February. We're gonna continue budget discussions. In between that time, we're gonna be meeting, the admin team is going to be meeting, going over their building budgets. Oh, thank you. They're going to be meeting to go over, so on the 26th, we should have quite a bit more information for you with the building budgets. Then,
March 26th, we're looking to have the full budget here so you can review the full budget. We will have talked about several of the pieces throughout the budget, and that will be the draft. Then I added into the board meeting on April 9th some budget discussion, if that's okay with everyone. I figured we're going to go over the proposed, have some more discussion on it, make some changes if needed, and then for April, adopt the proposed final budget for the work session. Then we will adopt the final budget in the end of May. So, first, let's look at the local revenues. One thing that we have some control over is our real estate taxes. So our millage rate for 18-19 is 15.4. With the adjusted Act 1 index, we can increase our millage rate at the maximum 0.3. So to get our maximum millage rate increase, we can go up to 15.86. So that's the maximum we are allowed to raise taxes this year. Next, we're going to look at what that means for our increase in revenue if we go all the way up and raise it to the 15.89. Our 18-19 millage rate was 15.4. You see our assessed values, what our total tax levy is, and then the estimated collections. The estimated collections is based on 95% collections. I did just check our collections rate for the current year. We are at 95.2. We average 95 annually. That's a good estimate to keep at. So for 1920, if we go all the way up to the Act 1 index, it's going to take us to 15.86. With the assessed value decreasing a little bit, and I'll talk to you about that in a few minutes, but that changes our total tax levy and our estimated collections, bringing in our increased revenue of $338,000 from tax revenue. This is one revenue we have good control over, and we know what is going to happen primarily with this one. I want to talk to you about the change in the assessed values. The Walmart and the Lowe's this year, they filed appeals for their taxes to be reassessed. And the result of that was the reduction in their tax assessment. As far as I know, Walmart has not pursued to go further and try to get it reduced further. Lowe's is currently seeking to get their assessment lowered even further than what it was during the initial appeal process. So we'll keep an eye on what goes on with that. You'll see the assessed value went down just over $1 million, and Walmart went down 1.4 million, and Lowe's went down 1.1 million. But our total assessment only went down about 1.4 million. So we still have an increase in assessed values. That's due to people making improvements on their home, people building new homes. So we are still seeing growth, but because of those two properties, it looks like we're seeing a decline. Anyone have questions on the assessment?
Yeah, so we don't have to figure it out, do you have on Walmart and Lowe's, on the appeals, how much revenue we lost due to
Well,
the reassessment?
I don't have the revenue, but, it was, Walmart's assessment was changed by 1.4. I have it back in the
That's their
office.
assessment value, but that's not
You know,
the
that's
taxes
one
they
point
pay.
four times millage.
Right, I don't have it wrote down right here now. I have it on a spreadsheet. So I can get that for you and send it to you.
Bob's got his calculator out.
Yeah.
I think Mrs. Basin is kind of calculating it there for you.
Well, I got messed up because I was looking at other things, sorry.
222,000 for Walmart,
Correct.
so Lowe's would be 180,000. Oh, that's a big deal.
174,460 for Lowe's. And explain what happens. It doesn't mean that those monies don't come in, they get spread out among everybody else.
Yes.
No, this is ours. What I need is that money that's made up by you.
Did we have to pay that money back, like Muncie had to pay the mall back?
Well, no, unless there's an error in prior years. There is some things going on with the Lowe's appeal that, we have contacted the attorneys and the attorneys are involved with. So, we're keeping a close eye on it.
Is that big, is that mostly just comps? Where do they come up with the number?
They have someone come out and
So it's comps,
They have
it's real
industrial-
estate.
They have industrial attorneys that will come in and will argue both sides. So we can partner with the county, the municipality, and the district together, because we're all going to stand the chance of losing money. So it's worth it for us to all fight together to not have that reassessment be so low. So we'll have to hire an expert as the three of us together, as would the
Makes it
entity
easy
itself.
when they sell a building down at the mall, that becomes the number.
It does not matter though. The number is not and should not ever be based on whether it is vacated or not.
No, I'm saying they sold that Macy's store for $500,000 and they had it on the books for $5 million. So that's what it ends up being. You can't argue that. It's the price it's sold for, so, yeah.
and you have, Mr. Marshall, you have the case information now, I believe.
That's right, the school district has intervened in the tax assessment appeal process, and now the issue before the court will be fair market value, which leads to determination of assessed value, and as was already mentioned, municipalities, Montoursville has also intervened, so that lies ahead.
Boy, once they get that mall for comps, that's gonna be tough on these commercial buildings.
Well, it becomes battle of the experts,
Yeah.
and presentation of expert testimony.
Unless it sells, then that settles it. Thank you.
Okay. We'll move on. Some of the other, local revenues that we'll be watching over the next couple months is our earned income tax. I just wanna comment on a couple things on that. We are currently down, 4.1% from last year, but I'm happy to report we're on track to make budget for this year. Because we do budget conservatively, we watch the trends. I believe we're going to be right on budget for that, and we'll just have to continue watching where it goes this year to make our best judgment for next year. One of the other local revenues that I'm seeing a trending upward in is our interest on our investments. So this might be an area where we can budget a little bit more revenue coming in than what we have in the past, because that trend is now hitting 3 years along the way. So investments are hard to predict because that could change overnight, but we've been doing well over the last couple of years with that. So,
Excuse me, how do we, interest on investments,
Where does that come from when we owe $93 million?
okay, so, July, all of our tax bills go out. We take in a large number of
It's just
tax
short term
revenue.
then?
It's all short term.
Yeah, okay.
We take in a large number of tax revenue right in the beginning
Okay. I
that we
understand.
spread out throughout the year. We also have some money, like our fund balance, and, you know, that's collecting interest, so.
You told me, when I talked to you before, that the interest on that monies, changes from day to day, correct?
It can, depending, usually typically on Tuesdays is the day we reinvest. So, what will happen is if I know I'm going to need to make a Peasers payment that month, or that week, I will let them know, hey, I'm going to need this amount of money. I keep as much as I can invested all the time. So we have it on Excel spreadsheet when we're going to need the amount of money we're going to need. So we can have the amount that we need on hand, but then the rest of it is being invested so that we're collecting as much as we can also. Any other questions on that? Okay. We're going to move on to state and federal revenues. These are more of the unknowns, and they're really unknown until almost the budget's passed or until after the budget's passed. So we have to make some really good educated estimates with them. So far as I'm working through the budget, I have left them alone. Sometimes you may want to do a 1% increase, but to me they're too unknown to play with. Let's just leave them for right now. So we're gonna keep an eye on this. We'll see what the budget for next year, the state budget for next year shows in February, and maybe we'll have a little bit better guessing skills at that point. But so far, we're staying balanced with last year for the basic ed subsidy, the special ed subsidy, and the transportation subsidy. I did see an email today, I did not have a chance to read it. There was the transportation subsidy, some of the information did come out for that today. So, what the rate will be. So, I will have a little bit more information on that, but still not quite what I need. I usually get that information about the end of March for the transportation subsidy. And then the federal revenues, the Title I, Title II, and Title IV. Each year, we typically budget the money, the same amount that we received in the prior year, and we usually find out what we are receiving.
There's a conference in April.
Yeah, so right around then. So we'll see what that looks like also. Now, the expenditures. We're just going to cover 3 tonight. 3 object codes. These 3 object codes are ones that we can heavily predict at this time. Object code 100. Those are your wages. That is mainly pulled from contracts, agreements. So we have that information, those agreements or those contracts are in place for a couple of years, so we can project where we are going for our increase. So you'll see we're just under $300,000 for the increase in wages. Employee benefits, object code 200. Those are also your Peasers and your health care. Those are what produce your biggest increases there. Healthcare right now, we are estimating a 4% increase for healthcare costs. Hopefully in February, I will be able to give you the actual cost. I'm confident that it will be 4% or less, and that's what we're looking at right now. Object code 900. That is
your debt payment. It increases $30,000 this year. So as you see, our increase in just these expenditures is over 500,000. But you have to remember, this doesn't include any changes. This is based on the staff we have now. I did not take out any retirements, or anything like that. So these will change as we work through the process, we get the retirements in. You'll see the employee benefits will also change as we put the retirements in too. So right now there's a little bit of a gap, but we should be able to figure it out working through the budget process. We're looking at $200,000 more in expenditures than revenue of what we can see in a good estimate of currently. Questions on this?
That's after a raise into the index.
Yes, that's if we rate, and that's because what we can control right now. We don't know what's going to happen with our basic ed funding or any of our subsidies, so we have that money yet too.
According to this timeline, you're only showing one more discussion on budgets before you come out with a proposed budget.
That's a draft.
Right, I realize that. It's a draft of a proposed budget.
So you can see a full budget, see what it actually, the whole thing looks like as a full.
I don't think she's asking for us to vote.
No.
No, I know that, but.
So you'll be able to see everything at that point. That's the
changes, everything that
That's-
has come to light.
that we have so far.
Right.
But you'll have a full,
So then we'll be able
everything.
to discuss it then also.
Yes.
It's not
Oh,
saying
yeah,
that we
no.
won't be able to discuss it. It's just
that's why, yes, that's why we're going to discuss it at the board
she'll
meeting.
have it there for us to discuss.
But it gives you more time to look at it. Any questions on these expenditures?
The health insurance, what is the what's it called, the consortium? What are they saying right now?
4%.
4%. And last year, what did they say?
5.9
And then they dropped it?
I would have to look back at my
Came
notes.
in at 5.9 for the one that most of our people are on. It actually came in higher for that one and lower for the other one.
That was 2 years ago.
I think it was last year too.
I'd have to look it up for you.
Do the employees contribute any to that cost? Or is that?
Depends on their contract.
Yeah, I know they go by contract, I don't know what the contract says.
I believe the only group that does is the F93.
Okay, so faculty, teachers don't have to co-pay.
Well, co-pays are different.
Well, I know, I was using
Premium
the wrong
shares, what
term.
you're asking though,
Yeah.
Bonnie, right?
Right, what they have to pay for this,
Contribute.
Some of our other expenditures that we will be looking at over the next couple of meetings are our Object Code 300, purchase professional and technical services. These are contracts such as the IU contract, our tax services, our legal contract, our auditing. Those all fall under Object Code 300. Then we'll also be looking at Object Code 400, purchase property services. This is repairs, trash, all your utilities, pest control, items like that. Then your Object 500 is your busing services, your advertising, your phone service. Object Code 600 is the supplies. That can be anywhere from pens, papers, tissues, any supply that the building may need. Object Code 700 is property, which is any equipment that is purchased, falls under there. And Object Code 800 is other objects, but it's like your dues and your fees and those kinds of items. So we will be looking at those, here in the future and going over those, any questions on those, what those are, or?
Brandy, each department head and of your administrators gives you a list of what they want for their department, or their.
They give a budget, yes.
Okay, does that list includes, supplies that they have to have, that, things that they need every year to run that school? Plus, they have a wish list, correct?
Wish list does not go technically into that budget. How they do that is they will put in an impact statement, and we will evaluate impact statements, together.
Will you, in the February meeting, will you have those impact statements, wish lists, whatever you want to call them, will you have for each?
We should have the majority of them by then, but the reason why I'm holding out to the March to give you the draft of a full budget is because I want to make sure we do have everything in it, and you know, we may be waiting on an estimate on something, or you know, so that's why I'm giving us a little bit of timeline, but I plan on having most of that done by February, yes.
That way we could, I mean, we all know that there's supplies, there's stuff that we need to run a district. But then there's a wish list. Let's face it, it's a wish list. It's what I don't need to run, but I really would like to have because I think I could do this with it. I think I could make this better.
Our new programs, yes, like the
right.
stuff that we need for the new programs and stuff, you know, those are wish lists right now because we don't have those.
Right, and will those wish lists, and I mean, maintenance has them, Dan, you have them, every department head has them.
Ron, I'm gonna stop you right there though. The wish list items that would come forth are those that we believe survive the strategic intent of what we're doing.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is, will we, in the February meeting, have those where we can look to see what they are?
What I asked Brandy to do this year is to maintain everything in the budget as the status quo, don't change anything, so that when we do bring them, you can actually see them individually. So that you know, okay, the budget was changed in these categories because of this item that we are asking to fit the strategic intent. So you actually can put dollars and cents with those.
Yeah, and that's what I'm asking.
Yep. Yep. You probably won't see all of them because they won't make it past the rounds to get to a budget.
Well, the ones that make it pass,
right.
that's the ones
that
we're
make it
interested
pass,
in.
Yes, and that's what you'll see as changes being.
Because the ones that don't make it don't cost money.
Right, that's correct. They don't cost money.
Any other questions on the expenditures? I just wanted to give you a fund balance so you can see it up on the screen. As of the audit on June 30th, 2018, here's where our fund balance is. $3,387,628. Reviewing everything currently, I believe we should be able to maintain that fund balance this year. As we get closer, I'll be able to give you a better projection on exactly where we're going to come in. But currently, I'm very confident that we are going to be able to maintain that number.
What is restricted and unrestricted, or assigned and unassigned?
I'll have to pull it up on my computer. I don't have it right now.
Okay.
That was in the audit, so if they want to review their audit, they can see that there.
So I think in the future that we'll need to see that both of those ways so that we know what was restricted for feasors and how that's being used that way. Yeah.
Any further discussion?
Along with the other funds also.
Yeah.
Like the capital reserve and
Right.
Somebody else for Brandon?
So the big news tonight is that, Walmart and Lowe's took $385,000 out of our pocket.
Yes.
But it's not settled yet.
Walmart is.
Walmart is settled.
They have not appealed, and we chose not to go after anymore at this point, just to kind of let it go.
The only appeal pending is
Yeah.
Okay.
That will change as time goes on.
Was we involved in the appeal, or was that right just at the county level?
in the initial process. We intervened at the county court level. That's where it is now. We intervened in December, along with the borough.
With Walmart too, or just with Lowe's?
With Lowe's.
No, the Walmart, if that's settled now, were we involved with that at all? Or was that strictly at the county level where they made the decision and we have to suffer the consequences?
It was the Board of Assessment Appeals made a decision,
right,
and nobody appealed,
so
including the school district.
So it didn't go to court then?
Correct.
I did investigate it further, and investigating it further, I felt it was in our best interest to just kind of let that one be, especially seeing where the Lowe's one is headed.
I think with the SE building, well, time will tell. But that's gonna get worse. We have people battling their property tax.
Anything else for Brandon?
Especially businesses.
That's what I mean.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you, Brandy.
Public comment. I know, Rich, you're biting the bullet to get right up there.
But not in front of me.
Always.
But not in front of me.
Do I have to time you?
Huh?
Do I have to time you?
No.
Okay.
Pamela Nelson, 225 Dennis Street. I have a question on the changes on the Keystone presentation, which I like, but I don't know if I'm not understanding something right, but on the slide for the changes, the one where you said like 95% of the people are gonna get through, the way the slides were worded, it said they still have to pass the Keystone.
Pass the course associated with the Keystone.
You have
So
to
they have
pass
to pass
the course,
algebra,
not the
they have to
because that's where I was
pass
getting confused, because you're like, they don't have to pass it, and I'm like, but it says they have to pass. All right, so pass the course and then take one of the other tests, they don't have to pass it. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay.
Hey, you sat there that long, just.
I think that's a
more
record.
time than
That's a
that.
record.
Well.
You still have 2 minutes and.
2 minutes and 30 seconds left.
Okay, does anybody, have anything G1 to G8 they wanna separate?
Ready to go, I better open back up here.
We are
Ready to
voting
second
this
that.
evening on these items, and selfishly, I will say, I'm not going to be here on the 13th for the next meeting, so I said whatever we had, please get it on, so that we have this available on by policy. We can turn, according to Mrs. Smith, we can turn this as a regular voting meeting from a work session, so.
My next question, how we were voting on.
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, to ensure that that's appropriate,
It's an advertised public meeting.
yes, it is an advertised public meeting, but we should maybe make a motion that we would like to vote on all of these items. Would that be appropriate or not, Tom?
It's not necessary, but
Okay.
you would certainly do it.
Okay, well then we'll just go ahead and go through if we need to. Anybody with anything for G1 through G8 separated?
Just a quick question. Did we do a roll call, just to verify that we're all here? Should we do that?
I noted it,
Okay.
but thank you.
I guess can I ask a question about one of them, or?
You have to make motions first and then you can ask questions. And then we can.
Does anybody want anything pulled out? Okay, can I have a motion G1 to G8?
Move to approve?
Second.
questions on any G1 to G8?
I was just curious, kind of like with the FBLA, with the cheerleaders to Orlando, is it airfare? Are they driving? Does the district pay for?
They're driving, and it's policy that we have this because they're going out of state, but we have it approved.
Okay. Are we pay for everyone, or are parents contributing?
This is all on them, isn't it?
This was independent of the school.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But you are certainly welcome to give them contributions, they will accept them happily.
And where do they get sent?
I believe Ashley Weaver, because I sent to Ashley.
Into the school?
Yes, I have, yes.
I have a couple questions. On G6, the new club, who would the advisor be? And is that a paid stipend for that, or?
It'll probably be me and no.
It'll probably be you. And my
The purpose of that is to bring, the 8th grade dance back to the middle school. Rather than, I think it's been at Our Lady of Lourdes. So it should be at the school.
Principal agree with that?
Yeah. Yeah, this is the middle school principal. And then it also will help them bring some seed money with them into 9th grade, because they do that float so early in October for homecoming. They'll have a little bit of money on hand then to participate better with that, so. Again, to get them thinking towards high school in 8th grade.
Okay. And I have another question on G7, the addition of 15 days for school psychologist services. Is there an extra cost for that then?
There is an extra cost, and this is in order to meet the needs of those students who have to be tested to be special approved.
Okay.
And we did do this last year.
Right.
She has a contract that is not the entire year, and what you're going to hear from Mark Ishman, I'm going to be bringing him in. He is the state representative for special education. He came and finalized the audit with Michelle and I would like to have him come in and explain to you what it is that he is recommending for our district with the change in clientele and such. And this is one of the pieces that we just have to have, because we are just making deadlines.
Like 60. Okay.
Yes, you
All right, thank you.
60 calendar days, you're right, so thank you.
Oh, go ahead.
I have a
You're
question
next.
on G8, on the description. I have emailed Brandy about it, so she already knows. I think just, she's answered a couple of my questions, but number 11, under essential job functions, it says must use personal computers, and when I read that, I thought, oh, that's for your home computer. And you wouldn't want to be doing confidential information on your home computer on a spreadsheet. And that wording is probably back from when personal computers were different from the office computers, so you could just strike the word personal.
I would just even say, must use technology to create spreadsheets.
That works. And maybe they're gonna use tablets.
I'm finding, Dottie, that a lot of the job descriptions are very well outdated, and I really would like the opportunity of going through the job descriptions and updating them and bringing them to the board. One is Brandy's, because hers references articles of incorporation and another object that no one seems to be able to find, and I think was probably replaced by certain policies. So it, I think, came from 1985 or 1989, so I think hers needs some updating that way.
G3. What is RDA? The subgroup of RDA. It's on the attachment.
G3 says.
Does anybody know what the RDA is?
Subgroup of RDA.
That's not for Ryder Park, is it? Maybe?
No. No, this is, I know what it's about. It's about the pipeline going across the Sauk up at, West Beach.
Some 501
Is it residence something?
RDA.
don't know, that's why I asked, because I didn't know. And I was also curious, it's got multiple, on the request, it's got multiple locations, is
About
that?
Rural Development Association or something like that.
What
It's
is it?
something like that.
Rural Development Association, I'm just
It's something,
guessing.
if that's not, it's,
And like I said, I noticed different locations. Was that to cover all bases, so you guys could decide where it would be, where it could be held?
yes.
What was open, okay. I'd still like to know what that area is.
I have it somewhere here, I just can't find.
How involved does the district get in something controversial like the pipeline? I mean, do we?
Not our place.
No, I mean, even having a place for them, let them go to a
Well,
church.
I don't mind them.
Well, it's a non-profit.
They pay
Well,
taxes.
It is the community and it's a non-profit.
I don't have a problem using the facility, you know. But
Maybe Mike Ruther knows what RDA is.
He's
Apparently
a
not.
I'm like putting you on the spot there, Mike.
Well, the reason why I asked, because he was at the last meeting.
Okay.
Anybody else? G1, G8? Okay, have a motion to approve all?
We
Oh,
already
I'm sorry.
did.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Ayes have it.
If we could do, P1
I
separate
was on the
from
front page,
P2
remember?
through P5, I think that would be appropriate. P1
I wanna
approval
put
for
it
the
right there.
following appointments to the business office staff effective January the 23rd, 2018. Mrs. Susan Robbins will become the business office administrative assistant at a $30,000 prorated amount. Her hours will be 1,920 prorated for this year, and she is replacing Sarah Kaiser. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions?
Yeah, Mrs.,
I was just gonna ask, how many applicants did we have for this position? And what stuck out the most for this candidate?
I'm gonna let Brandy answer that.
Okay.
True applications, I wanna say we had about 10 or 11. I did post it on Indeed, so I was getting some, applications that aren't truly applications because I asked for 2 letters of recommendation. You know, I asked for, and they didn't provide it also. I didn't even consider those applicants. I did email them all and ask them to submit. None of them did. So they were just filling their job requirement. I quickly then shut off the ability for them to do it, and it had to be sent here. So I believe I had 11. We interviewed 5 or 6. And I went through and looked at those. I believe it was 6 by did they turn in everything, and was their history and their education something that would balance what we need here in the district. From then on, we went to the interview. We had 2 candidates that really did well in their interview with their work history, and so we moved forward by looking at some other things. They did a test, an Excel test that I have them do. So some of it was based on how accurate their Excel test was. And I needed a good fit for our district. I needed someone that can handle transportation. We get tons of transportation calls into the district office. So, in finding the personality that was going to fit well, she has experience dealing with nursing home patient families. So it's a similar situation in some of the description. It just seemed like she was truly the one that would be able to fit into the situation the best.
22 years at UPMC
I think it was 21.
as a customer service.
So dealing with discrepancy.
Brandy, what's the annual salary of that? I see the prorated, but what's the annual salary for that position?
It'll be prorated, the annual salary is 30,000.
Is what?
30,000.
That's it? For a 12 month? Oh, I thought this was to pick up, okay, all right, I misunderstood that. And only 2 bona fide applicants. Really, I mean, 2, the job market must be pretty good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brandy.
All right, any other questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, ayes have it.
May we have a motion for P2 through P5, please?
Move to approve?
Any questions, P2 to P5?
Yep.
Okay.
The football assistant coach. Who is that?
Ryan Rooney. You talking Ryan Rooney?
Yes.
Under P2.
When did the stipend for that go up? When was the last time the stipends were approved to be raised? I'll ask that first.
We have not adjusted the stipends for at least 2 years. There have been no increases to any coaching salaries for 2 years.
When did we approve a head coach for girls track and field?
This is Nathan's replacement. Nathan Kimball was the coach for.
A head coach or an assistant coach?
Nathan was the head coach.
Of track and field?
Yes.
Girls.
This says,
Girls track and field, head coach, Mike Sillo.
And he's being replaced with Mike Sillo.
I realize that. What I'm asking is, when was it?
We split those back out when Stan left. Which I forget what year that was.
I'm looking
Stan
it up
headed
right now.
both programs. When Stan left, we went back to a boys coach and a girls coach.
It was about 4 or 5 years ago.
Actually, it was this year.
It was 2006.
That was the last year we did that, 15, 16.
Yeah,
I think so.
because, in the beginning, it was in 16 that Stan left. And are there still 7 assistant coaches, football coaches?
What was the question, Ron? I'm sorry.
Are there still 7 assistant football coaches?
That would be in your wage and salaries book.
I'm trying to pull it all up, but I'm trying to get to a good sheet.
And when I say assistants, I'm talking about paid assistants, not volunteers.
I think there's 7 assistants. But this is an old sheet, so I'd have to check my
What year's yours
handwritten
all
ones.
from, Brandy?
This is the one from 17, it looks like. I have to go.
So the pay would be the same now as it is then, correct?
Depends on if the
It
coach
depends on,
has changed.
yes.
So if we changed a coach, there could be something different as a stipend depending on the number of years that they've served.
Showing you,
Are you including the first assistant? I was just counting.
yeah,
I was just counting.
just plain assistants, then it's 7.
That's what I have too.
There's the stipends on there.
Yeah, and then there's adjustments for their years.
Right.
So Mike Siller won't be at the base because he coached track
Years ago.
for 10, years. So the base for the head girls is 3,900.
Correct.
And then he had, what is that difference, 900? So then we credited him 9 years of coaching experience in the district. So $100 for each of those years then gets us to that 4,800.
The stipend goes up $100 each year.
It used to, it doesn't anymore, but when we hire new, we do credit them for their years previous coaching.
And actually, head coaches was $120 a year.
We just did a flat 100 when we were doing years of service, rather than get into the 120. And then, those have been flat for the past 2 years, including the removal of playoff bonus pay. That was removed from the coaches as well.
And I think as a board, we need to have some discussion.
We need to
about
talk about that.
Some point before, so, doesn't mean today.
That's why those numbers won't match the base numbers.
Right.
They get credit for years of previous coaching service.
That's all.
Okay, anybody else? All those in favor say aye, P2 to P5.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it.
Under transportation, T1, approval of promised land busing bus rates for December 2018.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it.
Budget and finance, just PD F1 and DF2. May we have a motion for those?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions?
Yes, Randy, the, BF1, could you explain that, please?
That's what is turned over to county collections.
Yeah, I know, but explain how to read that graph, if you would, please.
Okay, so each township, borough is across the top.
Right, I realize that.
The first line, line 1, is the total amount for the bills for them, okay? Then what we collected is in line 3, okay, for each one. Then, then we break it down to face collections, because you have your discount period, your face period, and your penalty period. And we always value these at face, no matter what period we're in, so that we get an accurate reading for your total balance.
Oh,
Okay?
So you don't do it the discounted period?
Right, we do that down below in 9 through 12. We account for that. Tolerances is when the bill's off a couple dollars. They pay 2 cents less. They pay 50 cents less. We don't go after 50 cents. You know.
Not here.
So but when there's little adjustments, that's what that is.
Okay.
And then line 8 is your total that is collectible, and that's all at face.
And what hasn't been paid yet?
Yes, at face. That's still, and that's what we turn over to county collections. So line 9 goes up to line 4, which is your face collections, plus penalties and minus discounts. So you're taking those off, and that shows you what you're actually collecting.
All right.
Okay? Then it all totals out to the end, and then you see what we turned over to collections this year. And that's right on. So, yes. And then on the other side, you'll see is the interim tax bills.
Yeah.
Much simpler. There's very few of them. So you can see the same thing for the interim tax bills. You good?
Yep, I wasn't gonna vote on something I didn't know.
No, that's good. It is a confusing chart unless you use it, so.
Any other questions? Can I have a approval for BF one and BF two? Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it.
I didn't get a chance to get in this question, so I'll ask it after we voted. I voted aye too, but, on BF2, Brandy, how many of you attended that training on May 22nd?
There was just the two of us.
And the reason why I asked that is because of, you having the backup for,
We don't have a backup right now.
so when you do get this other person in, there'll be a backup, she'll be taking the course, class?
I put out in an email, yes, that she will be attending a class in March.
That's it. Okay. Anything from board members? I'd like to say one thing, thank you to nutrition and administration, they fed us dinner prior, so Rich didn't have to cook, and so we're all good. So, but thank you, so, and if I can have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. Yeah. Yeah. Pull up to the door. Be ready to go.